For story number one, I would like to welcome Dr. Hemant P. Thakur. He's the consulting physician and cardiometabolic specialist associated with Just Lok, Breach Candy in Mumbai. Thank you so much. And we also have Dr. V.K. Paul, member of the Niti Aayog and chairman of the Board of Governors of the Medical Council of India. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Dr. Paul, let me begin with you if you can hear me. Good evening. My question to you is, how seriously should we be taking this spike, this big increase as of this moment? I mean, it's a cause of great alarm at a time when you're also trying to unlock.
Well, as is expected in a pandemic of this nature, the virus is in the country. It is going to infect susceptible people, and we have a huge population which is still susceptible. So the choice before us is very clear, that we will continue to take measures to ensure that the suppression of the virus and its transmission is taken to the maximum possible extent on the one hand, and at the same time we open up our system, our society, our activities to the extent that we can maximize the gains in terms of socioeconomic gains and societal gains. It is a tightrope walk, but it is possible to combine the two and balance the two strands optimally. And if you look at the big picture, the cases are rising. At the same time, the recoveries are rising. The mortality has stabilized. It has come to a relatively acceptable low level, and we are learning how to keep on doing better. So it is basically now a balanced approach, and we have to continue both the strands of our commitment to continue with lives and to continue to suppress the virus to the maximum possible extent.
Okay. Dr. Thakur, I want to know from you, see, the point is, Dr. Paul just now mentioned that cases are rising all right. I mean, that's an undeniable fact. But it is also equally undeniable that the number of recoveries are also rising. But the number of new cases that we are adding are more than the people recovering.
Yes, but the reason is because more and more people are testing. You have a population of 1.3 billion. Now that the norms for testing have been relaxed, there are more people who want to test, A, because they had mild symptoms, B, which is important, they are curious, and 3, they want to step out and go into offices, so they want to know what their status is. So with more and more people testing, you're getting more positives. But while recoveries have improved, we must realize that with every lockdown, people feel that now that we are locking down, the virus is easy, the condition is smooth. No, you have to remember that this is a yo-yo between life and livelihood. If you are interested in saving first your life, then you must think of those measures and then your livelihood. Sure enough, you need your job, you need to go to work, but it is not mandatory for you to go to the gym or to go to a salon or to a cinema. You have to decide that your mask, your distancing, your conglomeration, your social obedience has to be all prevailing. Then you can go to work. And even when you go to work, you have to be doubly careful because your neighbor is more lax than you are. And people feel that now we are in Unlock3, so the virus is 3 times distant. The virus is over your shoulder, behind you, in front of you. But if you are careful, then though there is community transmission, the recovery rates being good, you are less likely to fall prey to it. The vaccine is a long way away. So do not throw caution to the winds.
Correct.
Or interpret lockdown as a laxity. Today, we have to think of life first and livelihood
later.
Next.
Yeah, but that has been going on for a very long time, and that's why this debate keeps arising. And when there are rules that are relaxed, obviously there's an expectation that you go out and earn that livelihood. Dr. Paul, a very interesting point that was mentioned by Dr. Thakur is that of the number of positive cases. He's saying that he uses the expression community transmission. Now that seems to be somewhat of a taboo word as far as the dispensation is concerned. The government has stayed away from calling India entering the community transmission stage. Do you think that with these numbers, close to 50,000 cases per day, it's about time we accept?
Why, we should not get into that nomenclature is because of the fact that once you use this terminology, there is an impression that you then give up your fight. You say, okay, it is going on, and yes, let's not do any more testing. Let it be reserved for only those cases that are symptomatic or serious. No, we are definitely not at a stage where the three limbs of our containment strategy and control strategy have become irrelevant. It means we must continue with three things which continue to be so very important in our fight, and they have shown us the path to success. And these are: one, containment, surveillance, and making sure that the virus suppression is maximized. That happens through getting to the positive cases, identifying the contacts, isolating the positive cases, quarantining the contacts, and then using a containment strategy in a locality, in a geography, to make sure that these individuals do not spread infection to other people or even among themselves. The second pillar is that we remain prepared to look after positive cases who become symptomatic. If it is mild, yes, you can be looked after at home. And you also have a choice to go to a COVID care center for isolation. But if you are significantly affected and you are high risk, we must be prepared to take the patient through an ambulance, using an ambulance, to a hospital. So that's hospital preparedness. And the third pillar is our continuing effort to the practices, the new normal practices to which Dr. Thakkar was referring us to. Mask wearing, physical distancing, no large gathering, no spitting, hand hygiene,
hygiene. I agree with all of that.
And so on. So these are the three things which must continue.
Dr. Paul,
and we will not give it
my
up.
final question, I just want to ask you, see, many states have gone for a re-lockdown. Now, we've spoken to experts, and I want to know your opinion on how effective a re-lockdown is, because I'm given to believe that you can only lock down and take the gains once. You can't keep relocking and keep taking the benefits of a lockdown over and over and over again. In that context, when is our peak? Do we even know, or do we have an assessment?
Firstly, it is not necessarily true that you cannot impose restrictions if the situation demands. And these restrictions don't have to be imposed on large populations or large geographies. You could be selective in this approach, but yes, you have this weapon which you may like to use occasionally with great deal of concern and care and caution and quality assurance. Having said that, we have gone through a lockdown which was effective, which was early, which saved lives, gave us time to prepare, and it should really not be necessary these days for us to really looking forward to the lockdown strategy as our primary approach. Our primary approach will be those three elements that I highlighted just now.
But when's
and the issue about
any assessment on when is the peak coming?
Not easy to predict. It is not wise to predict. Yes, assumptions can be made. Some estimates are available. Some projections are available. What we know for sure is that a huge population of India, as we have seen in the Sero survey of Delhi, where we have seen an intense outbreak, and yet the seropositivity is around 1/4. So about 3/4 of individuals are susceptible. So we may have a situation where all the measures that you take may contain the disease and even flatten the curve as it happened in Delhi. But then it can come back again. So which peak are we talking about? But yes, on the whole, the fact that the current pandemic is now very intense in the western half of India, the large cities, yes, a lot of them are now in a way panning out, getting controlled. Things are settling in many, many cities, which is very reassuring. And most of this is happening despite not imposing new restrictions, which is even more reassuring. But the fact is that it is for us to determine how low the peak is and how delayed the peak is, because it is what we do by way of new normal by way of new normal that determines how much we stop the will of the virus.
Okay. All right. Dr. Paul as well as Dr. Thakur, thank you so much for joining us on this very short duration discussion.